For Bluegrass fans, Steve Martin is well known for his incredible banjo performance and writing skills. He's a Grammy winner for Bluegrass Album of the Year and an IBMA nominee for Entertainer of the Year. He has a history of collaborations with many bluegrass greats, including Earl Scruggs, the Steep Canyon Rangers, Vince Gill, Tony Trischka, and most recently Alison Brown. And don't forget the time he performed Dueling Banjos with Kermit the Frog. But Steve's story started long before his bluegrass fame. In the sun-baked sprawl of post-war America, where dreams were as big as the drive-in screens, one boy from Waco, Texas, was about to rewrite the rules of laughter and pluck the strings of a classic musical instrument to a renewed place in America's musical heart. This is the story of Steve Martin, comedian, actor, author, and bluegrass banjo virtuoso. From magic tricks at Disneyland to sold-out arenas, from heartbreak to late-blooming fatherhood, his life is a master class in reinvention. Stephen Glenn Martin entered the world on August 14, 1945 in Waco, Texas. The same year the atomic bomb fell and big band swing ruled the airwaves. His father, Glenn Vernon Martin, was a real estate salesman with actor's dreams, starring as an extra in wartime theater. His mother, Mary Lee, kept the home fires burning in a strict Baptist household. But paradise wasn't eternal. The family uprooted to Inglewood, California, then Garden Grove, where young Steve and his older sister, Melinda, navigated a childhood shadowed by his father's emotional distance. "I hated my dad for the first 30 years of my life," Steve would later confess in his memoir, Born Standing Up. Gifts like bikes and cars were stand-ins for affection, leaving scars that fueled his later humor, dark, absurd, and unflinchingly honest. At Garden Grove High, Steve wasn't the brooding rebel. He was a cheerleader, tumbling through pep rallies with infectious energy. It was here, among the pom-poms and school spirit, that he first tasted performance's thrill. But the real magic? That came at the happiest place on earth. At just 10 years old, Steve landed his first gig at Disneyland, hawking souvenir guidebooks on weekends and summers from 1955 to 1958.
Yes, it was. I was 10 years old. We had just moved to Garden Grove, California, and I didn't really know much about Disneyland. It was just opening. It was 1955, the summer of 1955, and a friend of mine, his name is Mo Collins, I found out since, told me they're hiring kids. I said, what? They're hiring kids to sell guidebooks. And I got on my bike and I went down there and somehow just landed this job. And it was, you walk up to Disneyland, you're 10 years old, and you park your bike and you look up and there's a train coming in and there's Mickey Mouse and there's trams and rockets to the moon and a rocket to the moon. And I was hired, and that was really the beginning of my show business career, I always felt.
But the park was more than a job. It was a playground for his budding showmanship. He'd sneak into the Main Street magic shop, mesmerized by illusionists conjuring up wonders from thin air. By 1960, at 15, he was behind the counter at the Fantasyland magic shop, mastering sleight of hand, juggling, and balloon animals under the wing of veteran performer Wally Bogue.
Well, I just happen to have a little something here, a little something called a Bogaloon, a little toy balloon that will enable you to tell people's personality just by the way they blow it up. Let me show you how it works. You see, the average and normal person will blow a balloon something like that. That's the average and normal type. And then we have the straightforward type. Some people are a little backwards in life. Naturally, the backward person, oh, I've got talent. Then we have the scatterbrain. Their mind jumps around a bit. Their balloon would do the same thing. There we are.
Steve recalled, "Tips were my first taste of applause." One fan even caught him on film in the background of Disneyland Dream. a home movie that became his uncredited silver screen debut. Disneyland taught him the alchemy of entertainment. Turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, one rabbit out of hat at a time. High school behind him, Steve dove into community college at Santa Ana, devouring drama and English poetry. He honed his chops at the Birdcage Theater, romancing actress Stormy Shirk amid improv sketches. Then came philosophy at California State University, Long Beach, a major that twisted his brain into pretzels of absurdity. Why does the punchline have to resolve anything, he'd wonder? It birthed his signature style, non sequiturs, escalating tension without release. He later transferred to UCLA for theater, but dropped out at 21 in 1967, trading academia for the spotlight. A dating game appearance netted him a date with Dean Martin's daughter. Fame's flirtatious wink.
Really, he was an extremely good friend of your twin brother, always hung around the house. His name is Steve Martin. Steve, come on and say hello to Marcy. Remember him? Well, I'll tell you.
But the big break? Writing for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. Ex-girlfriend Nita Goldblatt pulled strings, and at 23, Steve snagged a primetime Emmy for his Good Time Hour, and Sonny and Cher followed, sharpening his pen into a comedy scalpel. Yet, amid the TV glow, a 5-string serendipity struck. At 17, Steve discovered the banjo, fumbling through Bluegrass LPs by Flatt and Scruggs. He'd slow 33 RPM records to 16, detune his instrument, and mimic note for note in his bedroom. It was like cracking a code, he said. Enter John McCune of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, who tuned Steve's ear and managed his early tours. By the early 70s, Steve opened for the Dirt Band, weaving banjo riffs into his act like wild cards in a deck. Bluegrass wasn't just a hobby, it was salvation. In its high, lonesome twang, Steve found the raw emotion his father's silence denied him. Albums like Comedy Is Not Pretty in 1978 spotlighted his drop thumb medley, pure instrumental fire. It was anti-comedy with a backwoods soul, proving laughter and licks can coexist. By the mid-70s, Steve's Happy Feet stage antic, balloon noses, fake arrows through the head, exploded. His 1977 albums, Let's Get Small and A Wild and Crazy Guy, went platinum, birthing catchphrases that echoed through discos.
Well, excuse me!
For 18 grueling years, he fine-tuned his act, learning that audiences love watching you fail as long as you own it. Then, Supernova. 1978 Saturday Night Live hosting gigs drew 60 million viewers. His 1979 film, The Jerk, co-written and starring as the blissfully ignorant Navin, grossed $100 million on a shoestring budget. Milestones piled up like tinsel. Pennies from Heaven, 1981, showcased dramatic chops. All of Me, 1984, earned a Golden Globe nod. But not all arrows flew true. The Man with Two Brains, 1983, flopped critically, and his marriage to actress Victoria Tennant, 1986 to 94, crumbled under Hollywood's glare. I was a workaholic ghost, he'd reflect, haunted by anxiety attacks and a family rift that took decades to mend. Triumphs tempered the falls. In 1987, he co-wrote Roxanne, a Cyrano de Bergerac riff that netted an Oscar nod. Fatherhood eluded him until he wed writer Anne Stringfield in 2007, a 26-year age gap that birthed not just love, but a daughter in 2012. Becoming a dad was my greatest rewrite, Steve beamed. At 67, he cradled new life, reconciling old wounds with his own father just before Glenn's passing in 1997. Awards crowned the chaos. 5 Grammys, including Best Bluegrass Album for The Crow in 2010, an Emmy, 2 Writers Guild honors, and People's Choice nods. The Mark Twain Prize in 2005 hailed him as America's Humor Laureate.
And I am extremely pleased to receive this prize in the name of America's greatest humorist, Mark Twain. You know, I'm laughing at something, a Mark Twain quote that I love, and I wrote it down because I wanted to get it exactly right. He said, "Whatever you do, for God's sake, do not name a prize after me."
Kennedy Center honors followed in 2007. Yet Steve's ethos? Failure is the fog through which we glimpse success. If comedy was Steve's slingshot, the banjo was his boomerang, always circling back to bluegrass roots. His 2009 album, The Crow, new songs for the 5-string banjo, 13 originals with guests like Dolly Parton on Jubilation Day, snagged a Grammy and revived interest in the instrument. Bluegrass is poetry in motion, Steve says.
The sound that I ended up playing the banjo, which is 3-finger, that's when I really got seriously interested when I heard that sound. I said, what's that? What's that? I've got to learn that. And I was not a musical person. I just... And I didn't want to learn guitar or anything else. I just wanted to learn to play the banjo. Bluegrass music was defined in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, really, 40s and 50s, very clearly. You can go back and try to say, no, we're going to adhere to the tradition of it, but it'll only sound like an imitator. So it must change subtly. And there's really a lot of young bands who are redefining bluegrass and still sticking to the original 5 or 6 instruments that defined it.
He founded the Steve Martin Prize for Excellence in Banjo and Bluegrass in 2010, doling out $50,000 and performance slot to virtuosos like Noam Pikelny. Narrating PBS's Give Me the Banjo 2011 traced the twanger's African origins to Appalachia. But Steve's genius? Cross-pollination. In 2008, he linked with North Carolina's Steep Canyon Rangers, birthing tours from A Prairie Home Companion to London's Royal Festival Hall. Their 2011 disc, Rare Bird Alert, bluegrassified King Tut.
Now when he was a young boy, he never thought he'd see people stand in line to see the boy king. How'd you get so funky? Did you do the monkey?
2017's Tiny Desk concert went viral. With Edie Brickell, Love Has Come For You 2013, blended folk whimsy, Grammy nominated again. He jammed with Earl Scruggs on a 2001 Foggy Mountain Breakdown remake, honoring the man who sparked his obsession. Lately, 2024's On Banjo with Alison Brown and Vince Gill, on wall guitar, Since You Said Goodbye, fuses bluegrass with country soul. From nitty-gritty dirt band openers to symphony halls, Steve's collaborations prove the banjo's no relic, it's a bridge. Today, at 80, Steve thrives in Only Murders in the Building, earning Emmys and proving comedy has no expiration date. His failures, from early bombs to marital fractures, forged resilience. Triumphs like Fatherhood and the 2015 AFI Life Achievement Award affirm his legacy. His acceptance speech at the AFI Awards beautifully sums up his attitude about life and comedy.
Comic genius. We know who that applies to, Chaplin and Buster Keaton. And I always wondered, what exactly is a comic genius? Now, I know what a scientific genius is, someone who explains the universe or cures diseases, but what is a comic genius? Is it someone who always gets a laugh? Is every movie a hit? But after all these years of work and luck and mentors and compatriots, successes and failures, elation always balanced with an equal amount of insecurity, self-doubt, good audiences, tough audiences, surprise hits and surprise misses, I have finally realized what a comic genius is. A comic genius is someone who decides never to go into comedy. I'm so proud to have this honor, and I thank you, the AFI. I deeply appreciate this. I'll leave you tonight with a quote from one of my favorites, Jack Benny. He was at an event getting an award, and he said this: "I don't really deserve this award, but I have arthritis, and I don't deserve that either." Thank you very much. Thank you.
Through it all, Steve's philosophy endures. Embrace the absurd, honor the heartfelt. From Disneyland's illusions to Bluegrass truth, he's lived the punchline and the encore.